Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Packer Universe podcast, aka the Pup List. We're a Green Bay Packers fan podcast bringing you topical and relevant Packers news along with our most humble, subjective opinions. This is episode 289. We're recording this on Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. The Packers lost to the Vikings in week 4 at home, but they now travel to LA to take on the Rams this Sunday afternoon. Just a reminder, this is a video episode. So if you're listening on the podcast, head over to YouTube if you want and check out our ugly mugs. But again, thanks for your support. Oh, we had a lot of uptick on YouTube lately. So thanks for all the new subscriptions and the subscribers and the watchers. We appreciate it greatly. I'm your host, Tay, and joining me tonight in the video land is right there, our one and only.
Ren, what up, Tay? How we doing? The sun is setting on Lambeau. I know you're out there sitting in your lawn chair, just taking in the vibes. But no, the sun set quite a while ago, Tay. It's getting dark in Wisconsin. Maybe it's dark because we watched that first quarter of the Vikings game. And it is finally truly fall and the sun is setting early. But, how you doing? How you feeling? A few days removed from what was probably the worst first half we've seen in a long time in the Packers football game. Thus, then a second half that you go, okay, they're not so bad. But how you feeling?
Well, I'll have to start by saying that I was almost on the pup list today. I went to the dentist, so I was probable to show up tonight to do this recording. Had a filling done, so I went in the blue tent for a little bit, but I came out and I'm ready to play, Ren. So I'm glad to be here tonight. I was like, seriously, my whole side of my face was numb, and I wasn't sure I was going to talk. I was going to have you do the intro and do stuff, but in the last couple hours here, it's loosened up a bit. So yeah, I kind of feel like Tucker Kraft. You can get out and then come back in. You go out and you come back in. So, well, it has been a couple
many things I could say to that description you gave me today. So I don't know how you're feeling in the mouth, but I'm just gonna do my best to leave it at that.
Well, like you said, I've had a couple days now since we had our first takeaway, and that you can go see on YouTube. You can listen to it on the podcast, but we recorded pretty much after the game, and it got a lot easier to take now a few days later. The first half was pretty treacherous. I mean, and then they rallied in the second half with some adjustments. There were some things now looking back that you can pull out as positive. So, like after deciding positive.
Thank you.
So maybe Jordan Love was shaking off some rust, and we had our two starting cornerbacks missing, and Minnesota's really good right now. And you had, it was a tough matchup. It was a tough game for the Packers. But I still have to look at like 4 things that concern me for the Packers going forward. Okay. And those are the little pass rush that's happening from our defensive ends and line, the missed field goals, the drop passes now that have kind of crept up last week, and of course the penalties. So those are things that I'm looking for them to address this week in practice. Hopefully the coaching staff can kind of, rally the troops per se. But that doesn't mean like other things and other issues will pop up with this team. They're not perfect by any means, but I still think they're finding themselves, Ren. I still think they have potential right now to be better than they were a year ago from now. But my expectations kind of like remain where they are, and that's like still high after last year. My expectations are still up there. So I don't know. Maybe it's because we haven't seen a fully healthy team as we did going into the first game down in South America. But I'm confident that this team will find its way and it will make it work. I was really hard on them in the first take, but now looking back, it's like, okay, relax. There were some good things. They're going through some struggles. They're trying to find themselves. I think in the end, this team will make it work. We'll be okay. How about you, Ren?
That was my one positive throughout. Positive. Um, simply the team didn't quit, Tay. I mean, that is a hallmark of a team that plays together, and then that's what you want to see, no doubt. I mean, this was the youngest team in the NFL last year ever with a playoff berth, and still this year remains the youngest team in the NFL. And you see them play together. They're bringing each other up. They got everybody's back. I mean, that's literally what you want in a football team. Do you want to end the first quarter of the season 2-2? A lot of GMs say, yeah, that's exactly where you want to be because of the preseason nowadays. If you can get through the first 4 weeks 2-2, you're exactly where you want to be based on how the preseason, not a lot of guys play right away. That's you're okay. If you're anything better than that, you're in great shape. Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings are 4-0. That is not what you want to see. They have essentially a 3-game break on the Packers. That's okay. They kicked our ass last year in October. And where did the Vikings end up, Tay, last year, if I recall? Not in the playoffs, Tay. So that said, people are going to figure this team out. People have talked about Brian Flores' defense. Listen, Jordan Love put up 389 yards passing today. And anybody that wants to talk about it can say, oh, they're playing prevent. No, they weren't. They weren't playing prevent in the second half. Jordan tore them up. Yeah, he threw some Brett balls, wearing the Brett jersey, did his thing. Yep. But you know what? He also rallied that team like Brett Favre used to do. Didn't care, kind of on half a leg, willing them to almost a victory. And that's amazing stuff. Unfortunately, lost Christian in the game, lost Devontae Wyatt. Thankfully, both those injuries seem to be pretty short term. Really good news I think throughout the last day that the Watson thing is probably a 1 to 2 week thing, along with Wyatt. Wyatt could be even back next week, so we'll see what happens. But thankfully, they came out of that game and throughout most of the season thus far, pretty clean. There's not much more to take away from the Vikes other than just a pitiful, abysmal first half. Couldn't have gone any worse than one would have expected. And then on the other side, they come out and they just rally and do their best to get the thing in 2 points with just 50 seconds to go and do that weird drop kick thing. Matt LaFleur says, they tried that in practice. They did one drop kick that worked out. That's why they did that. Everybody's like, why are you doing that? Well, that's why they did it. But
yeah,
you got to be, again, I think based on how bad the thing started, you got to feel pretty damn good about your football team when they rallied back to almost win a football game they had no business being in. So shame on you, Vikings. You think you're the kings of the North. Well, enjoy the time in the short term. We know you're in our mentions, but we love it. Come talk, spill your stuff. We'll cope. You'll cope later. It's all good. We enjoy it. That's what rivalries are built on and all about. We love to hate you. Come hate us. It's all good.
That's right, Ren. Keep it coming. We're not afraid.
No.
Yeah, it's great to see that Watson is going to be out long term. It just sucks that he went down again. It's like, again, but it was a bad hit. And that gives opportunities to Wicks, Melton, Heath. I mean, Tucker Kraft. I don't know about Musgrave yet, but it gives the opportunities to some of these wide receivers that I guess wouldn't see as much playing time as they would if Watson was in there. So I'm not too worried about it. And I've been pretty critical of Watson, but when you look back at the tape, you do see the defense kind of playing to him, covering him, paying attention to him. So, although he's not getting a ton of production, like he's being useful, or so it seems, keeping the defense busy. But I'm glad he'll be back, sooner than later. And in the meantime, we have some other wide receivers that are pretty good that can, step up to the plate. and that's exactly what we need. Coming out of that Vikings game, I was a little worried about some of the hands on these guys. It seemed like the ground was catching more balls than they were, but I think that will clean up. I think some of that was rust on Love's part. Just better connections will happen in the future. I'm not too worried about that. They designate Jonathan Ford today to come back to practice. He was on IR. He was designated to return, so they gave him the 21-day window, Ren. He's a defensive lineman that was on the practice squad last year, but now he can start practicing, and he has 3 weeks until he has to be put on the 53-man roster. I think that's a good thing. We do have, with Wyatt being out, I don't know, 1 to 2 weeks, maybe longer. Maybe Ford comes in and helps out with the depth. We'll see about that. I know they were kind of high on him in the preseason, so that's something to watch. Hopefully he can come in and contribute, maybe be that, person that comes in to relieve, the other guys, Wooden and Clark, who, Clark was double teamed most of the game. He had a hard time getting any production, but I don't know. Something like this is always good to have a new fresh body coming in, as long as he's healthy. I don't know what the status is. Matt LaFleur says that he hasn't practiced in a while, so I guess you can take that as alarming, but we will see about that. Looking at the injury report a little more, obviously Jair Alexander didn't practice today. Kenny Clark didn't with the toe. Not worried about that one. Elton Jenkins knee issue. We weren't sure exactly when it happened, but he might have gotten rolled up on. He didn't participate.
It actually looked pretty bad. Actually looked pretty bad today when it did happen. It was one of those.
That was the one.
Could he be out for the season again? Like, that's how bad it looked initially. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, if he's DNP for the rest of the week and he's out for the game, I will start to be concerned. But if he makes it back to practice at any level, I'm thinking it's okay.
I mean,
we'll see.
At the time, he played, say, their forward. So
yeah,
I would think they're giving him some rest, let it spell, and it'll be okay.
Yep. He's almost in that veteran rest stage anyway. Luke Musgrave didn't practice with ankle. I'm not sure about him. Obviously, Christian Watson's out, and then Devontae Wyatt's out. So, limited was Carrington Valentine, which should be great to have him back. Jordan Love obviously was limited. Jordan Morgan was limited. We'll see if he makes an appearance. Edgerrin Cooper was limited today with a hip. He had a couple nice plays during the game too. I'm not too worried about him coming and playing in against the Rams, but we, as a whole, Ren, have an opportunity here for the Packers to rebound against the Rams, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But staying on the West Coast, Ren, Devontae Adams. I mean, I'll bring him up.
You got to do it.
It's kind of a funny thing. I mean, we've kind of been talking about him,
or ironic thing, Tay.
Ironic, right? So.
Not
it's not funny because the last 3 years, Ren, we've been hearing from this guy. Or 2 years. I made the right decision. I want to be here. This is where I want to be. I love playing here. I don't want to be traded. I don't want to go play anywhere else. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I do. Yeah, this sucks. I want out. And it's just like drama, if you ask me. He's got a hamstring issue at the moment, which means he's not playing. And now it's speculated that he might have played his last game as a Raider. But when you look back at it, it's just like, I don't even want to touch this. And of course, as Packer fans, as a Packer
you sure you don't want to touch it? Because you're getting handfuls. Like you're on second base today. You're there.
I don't know. I don't want anything to do with them. There's no way the Packers are going to trade for him. We don't want him. His time has passed. And he's, I love the guy when he was here. He did great things for the Packers.
Yep.
But when you say for the last 2 years that this is exactly what you wanted, you have no regrets. You love playing here. I don't want to be traded. You guys are wrong. The media, the fans are wrong. You don't know me. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I do want to. It's like I'm not into that. I don't want to flip flopper here. And we've healthily moved on from Devontae Adams. It's not going to happen. He'll go somewhere where some team
Hopefully,
will pay him.
yeah, absolutely, Tay. But the exodus of 17 ended up being a boon for the Packers. They rebuilt that wide receiver room. They allowed themselves to not say we have to have one guy that the quarterback relies on, especially with a young quarterback. You don't want that. It's not going to allow development. So I was
Yep.
very happy that Jordan Love didn't have to cling on to one guy who he could rely on. In return, learn to just spread the ball around, learn the offense, take the coaching, and move from there.
Yep.
I think that was hugely monumental in Jordan Love's development. Like, play within the offense. If you do so, it's going to be successful. And I think as we see the rest of this season progress, it's going to be more of the same. With, again, the pass catchers that are available at the time, but Jordan's not afraid to spread the ball around. Aaron, the last 3 years he was here, it was way too much. Where do I go? It's going to be Devontae. Devontae's my outlet. He's my safe.
When he was on.
Or Lazard, the last pass ever. We know, deep over the middle, didn't work. Guys you trust too much because you don't trust anybody else. You don't want that kind of thing. Devontae is a massive talent. We like the man. He was a great Green Bay Packer. But he's already kind of stated, I'd like to be in New Orleans or in New York. Why?
His buddies.
His quarterbacks.
His buddies are
both
there.
His quarterbacks are in those places. So he
and
inevitably wants to play with the guys he's familiar with. And listen, the guy's turning 32 or just turned 32, so it makes sense. But he's in the back end. He's in the way back end. We know how this works. He's still a super talent. I wish him the best. If you're Devontae Adams, do you want to be in Las Vegas? Absolutely not. That team is destined for nowhere. You are their top offensive piece. And yeah, they need to turn around for some picks because that team is in rebuild mode.
Again.
And he's not doing anything with them anywhere. I mean, Max Crosby is on defense an ultimate talent. The guy plays pretty much every snap. And we see Green Bay Packer defensive linemen play 40, 58, 61% of the snaps. Max Crosby plays them all. They've got some really good talent on that football team. But for the most part, that football team's not going anywhere. So I do expect Devontae Adams to get traded, and we'll see where it goes. Somebody mentioned a really good fit. Could be the Detroit Lions. Detroit. And yeah, he looked good there, Tay. I wouldn't want to see him in that Honolulu blue. That team looks pretty good in the NFC.
Yeah.
I don't know if, I know we just played the Vikings. They look good. They can be maybe the NFC front runner for now. But a true front runner, I'd say is Lions. And he would push him over the top. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. It'll be interesting to follow the Devontae Adams trials and tribulations. But, I would never want to see him in Green Bay again.
Well, we are definitely the spectators in this, and I love it. I love finally being the spectator to this Devontae Adams drama. It's always been nice to be the now spectators in the Aaron Rodgers drama. So it's great. I mean, some of the drama we've had is legitimate drama, like QB1 going down and you have to start a QB2 and you win 2 games. I mean, that's dope. So I think it's finally we're getting to some normalcy here with normal franchise problems. Speaking of franchise problems, let's get into the kicker situation, Ren. Narvison has been terrible.
Narv dog.
Narv dog. I want to reference and just throw this out. Our friend of the podcast, Rob Demoski, has a great article today up on ESPN talking about that. And he's got some great nuggets in there. But the thing that stood out to me was that he's missed more field goals than any other kicker in the league this year. And it's like
he's the only one to miss one under 40, by the way.
Yeah. And it's just
37
like
yarder. Yep.
The team has stood by him. Matt
Mm-hmm.
LaFleur has stood by him. And I guess that's fine for like right now. Obviously the fans and the fan base, the Packer universe doesn't like this one bit. We're sick of this. We're deja vu all over again. But we talked about it last week. How long do you give them? And I was like, we both kind of settled on one more week. And if it starts going bad or whatever, like get it out of here. Well, it's gone bad. I think we talked about it on the first take. I want him out. Let's get someone else in to try. But it seems like the Packers are going to stick with him. They're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Himself, I mean, props to Narveson because he himself is like, yeah, if I know this looks bad, I know I'm not playing well. It's on me. I need to, do this right. I know that people don't want me here, and there's a lot of pressure put on. So he's saying all the right things still. He's got great energy as a kid. Love the guy. But seriously, this is an issue, and it is a big deal. It's like taking us forever to figure this out. And Brian Gutekunst, seemingly the Goot is still hanging on to this. So props to him though for in the late hour, 11th hour of the preseason, pulls the trigger and switches the kicker up. But you look over at Joseph in New York, and he's hitting like everything. He hasn't missed one yet. So it's just like,
of course, it works that way, Tay.
I mean, obviously, we're upset and we want things to change. But where are you at with Narveson? Do you see the Packers making any kind of change next week, this week? Like, what does it take now for for the needle to move for Brian?
Not till trade deadline gets close, Tay. They brought in a couple guys this week.
Yep.
And that's just something you do all year. It's not a surprising thing. Nard Dog sucks, Tay. He's a good dude, but he's not good.
Yeah.
And you would just as soon bring Anders Carlson back. Is that the right thing either? No, because essentially you bring out either of those guys and it's a 40-plus yard field goal, even 35-yard plus field goal. And if the game's on the line, do you feel good about it, Tay? Either one of those guys kicking the field goal? No. I know people this week have been talking about Brian McManus, former Broncos kicker, etc., who was cleared of some things he was accused of on a plane to a London game. He's been reprieved on that stuff. But you look at his stats, they're not great at all. I mean, you're talking about an 80% kicker as well. He hasn't kicked that well the last 3 seasons. So do you go with the young guy who might have a better upside than Brian McManus? Like, I don't care. McManus doesn't, to me, I don't bring him in and go, oh, that guy makes me feel better, and kind of sounds a little, questionable as a personality. Doesn't mean he was, like I said, found guilty, but still, like, you put yourself in that position, so, you're whatever, so why do I want to bring you into my locker room? I think they maybe look at the waiver wire, or listen, there are practice squad guys that, maybe come and perform better. But another thing people looked at this week are the first 5 years of your boy, Mason Crosby. And I implore you, Tay, the husband of the Mason Crosby fan club, to go look at the first 5 years and the field goal kicking percentage of one Mason Crosby. Back then, a lot more conservative organization, Ted Thompson, Mike McCarthy. The first game, it was brought up today on something I was listening to. Like, he comes in and he hit some big jump kicks, and he was always given the benefit of the doubt. His field goal kicking percentage, Tay, you'll find in his first 5 years was below both Anders and Nard Dog as far as, where they were. We're talking in the 60s and 70s, Tay. It wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. This guy ultimately turned out to be a kicker for the Green Bay Packers for 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
But the reality is they stuck with the guy. Went through a lot of pain, too many missed kicks. One good thing he did do, and we remember well, is he made a lot of game winners later in his career. 12, in fact, throughout his career. So that's huge. I mean, we all remember the Dallas one. I mean, how can you not? You paying the Cowboys. You get the tight end that we had for 1 year from the Saints. He was great. Rodgers hits him on the sideline with a toe tap, and Mason comes in, Mason Dog, not Narv Dog, and he just hammers it. The Cowboys lose again in Jerry's world. Love it in the playoffs. Stick it to them. Dagger. But the reality is Mason Crosby sucked his early career. He sucked.
I'm looking at it right now.
No,
I'm looking at it right now.
Up, pull up his stats. He sucked.
I did.
He was below 80% basically every one of his first 5 years. He was not good. They stuck with the guy, and he turned out to be a 15-year kicker.
Four of the 5 first years, he was below 80%. What the like the 5th year or the 4th year was 85%. And maybe you're right. You look at the nostalgia and the years he's been here, and
that's the problem that you do.
But
and a lot of Packer universe does. They think this guy was God.
Listen,
he wasn't. Listen. He sucked.
Okay, but listen, I'd have to go back and look at see if we were losing games because of that. If we were blowing the team out and you miss a couple field goals and it doesn't affect the score, I can see forgetting about that, and not paying attention to that, 20 years ago. Sure. So definitely want to look back at that. When you have the Favre and Rodgers era where you're scoring touchdowns a ton, like maybe you don't need those, but right now, we need that. We needed those 6 points this last week.
You just needed one of them, Tay. You just needed one of the two.
But all I'm saying is, like, it seems to be, and you can tell me I'm wrong. Packer Universe can tell me I'm wrong, but it seems that it's more crucial now because we're losing these games by those missed field goals. That's all I'm saying. And I'll be the first one to look into it and say, like, I was wrong. Mason did lose us some in the first 5 years, but it just feels different. That's all I'm saying.
It does, but no, he wasn't good, Ted. And again, more conservative with Ted and the previous administration. They stuck with him, and it worked out great. The NFL is not for long, and nowadays nobody is going to give a kicker 3 to 5 years to figure it out. Nobody's going to do that anymore. No. Most of these guys hit 80%. It's not a big deal, and that's anywhere in the NFL. The kicking has really taken a tick up over the years, and we need one of those guys, and they do not have one of those guys, and that's the problem, and we don't have time to have a Mason Crosby back in the day project. It's not how the NFL operates anymore, and it is what it is, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you have forgiven and called upon number 2, who's Malik Willis now, by the way, who you do like, by the way. Apparently, it doesn't matter who goes out and wears number 2. It's like Superman jersey for the Tay family. But, those days are over. There aren't – Mason Crosby's not walking through the door. It's about producing now, and they need a guy who can – there is no reason you have a kicker that can't hit a 45-yard field goal on consistency day in, day out in the NFL. When you look at kickers on every roster, 28 of the 32 do it consistently. That's why it's not acceptable anymore. It's just not.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, Ron, let's move on to the Rams. We're going out there. West Coast 3:25 kickoff. The Rams aren't really what they were the last couple years, 3 years. They've lost a lot of guys. They've had a lot of injuries this year. You got Cooper Kupp and Nakua that are both out or on IR. They don't have as many weapons on that offense as they used to. And Matt Stafford back there, when he doesn't have a lot of easy options, and when he struggles, he can be picked off and easily rattled. So let's hope for that. Williams, though, the running back, is pretty dynamic. I almost kind of think And he had a performance last week that was, kind of mirroring Aaron Jones. So he can do that to us. He can put up 95 and maybe a touchdown or two. So that I think they're probably their strongest offensive weapon right now, besides Matt Stafford, is that running game with Williams. And, on the defense too, it's like both our secondaries have had some issues. Obviously, we had 2 guys out last week. Hopefully, we get Valentine back. I don't know what's happening with Jair, but it looks favorable for the Packers backfield, I think. And if we can get to the QB, put some pressure on, finally make turn the corner on the pass rush, you know, that'd be great. I mean, yeah, we had some flashes in the Vikings game. Nixon off the corner edge, causing the sack strip fumble, and stuff like that. Like that was great. But overall, that pass rush has to be better. We need more. Darnold was back there just throwing whenever and however he wanted. The defensive backfield for the Rams, I think, is a little light too. So I think Love has an opportunity here to showcase his receiving core and to kind of carve them up. So I'm looking for that run game. Emmanuel Wilson and Josh Jacobs did a good job. I think they did really well this past game. Although it wasn't super flashy, I think it was pretty good. I mean, Jacobs didn't have too many rushes, but his average was like, I don't know, like it was like 5.7 or something like that. So I'm looking for that to be supplemental.
Would you like me to tell you it was 9 for 51 for 4.7.
4.7. Okay. Well, still that's pretty good, I think. So anyway, that's kind of my spiel about the Rams. They're not as scary anymore. And going out there in this situation this year isn't daunting. This could be a definite bounce back game for the Packers. If they prepare enough, if they fix some of their dumb mistakes, especially the penalties, they can eliminate that stuff. This could be a really good, feel good makeup game for them, especially in the NFC, which, I mean, the Rams are last place in their division. I just don't see them getting out of that hole anytime soon. So nothing to worry about with this team, but I don't know. You kind of want to win in the conference at some point.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, obviously a McVay LaFleur game's always going to be interesting. Matt's had the better of Sean. Most of the time they have to come out here to Green Bay, be it in the regular season or the playoffs. And I know that McVay, as LaFleur said, they talked in the offseason, was finally like, hey, we get you guys out here, it's going to be good. But let's be honest, Tay, the contingent of Southern California Packer fans is going to be very loud and proud at SoFi. There's going to be a lot of traveling fans. There is a huge contingent that just lives in Southern California. Remember, Southern California didn't have any teams other than, at the time, the San Diego Chargers for so many years. They had no LA teams, nothing. The Packers are very, very big in Southern California. So you're going to talk about at least a 50-50 home field piece with Packer fans in California, if not 60-40. And that's not getting into even the personnel, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But you mentioned it up front. I mean, this team is probably, through the first 4 weeks of the season, the most banged up in the NFL. They're missing 3 guys in the offensive line. You talked about Puka. You talked about Cooper. I mean, those are the last 3 years. Those are 2 of the best wide receivers, on the team together in the NFL, what they can do in game time, like so many possession receiving yards. It's incredible, but they're not going to have either of them. You got Tutu and God, who's the other guy? Demarcus Robinson. Those are the main guys. Tutu Atwell's not a bad receiver, but Matt Stafford's again. He's what now 37. He's been playing his ass off. He's just trying to work through it, do the best he can with what he's got. And it's not a lot. You mentioned it also up front. Listen, Hafley's defense was always going to try to get home with 4. It's not worked out real well through the first 4 weeks. I know that Rashawn has got a lot of bad press, a lot of people coming after this guy. where is he? Where is he to be found? Put him on a milk carton. He's been getting a lot of hate. I don't know if it's all well deserved because they do run some of those packages that basically put him on an island and he gets double teamed. Yeah. But it's their time. Like this week, you're playing one of the weakest offensive lines. You already played one last week. You couldn't get home. They should have done better against the Minnesota interior. They didn't. Minnesota tackles are okay, maybe even good, but Rashawn's got to get some. They got to get some. It's just hasn't worked out. So got to put the pressure on. Kylo Ren. I mean, Kyron Williams has been real good. He does stir the drink there, Tay. He is the offense at this point. We're talking 4.9 yards a carry. He's good. He's a touchdown in every game in the last, 12 games consistently. But stack the box, get some pressure, put it on. Hopefully Jair can play. That was a weird thing last week. I didn't even realize it when it got to game time that he was not available. I had missed that one last week. He got hurt Thursday in practice. They need him out there. Listen, Stokes is really good sticking with the receiver. He's got no hitch. He can't get his head around anybody. He can stay with the guy, but as soon as receiver gets into any kind of dig on him downfield, he doesn't get his head around. He doesn't do the right things. He's speedy, but he's so stiff. And that's why he didn't get the extension. That's why he won't be there next year. So Stokes is a liability. They picked on Eric Wilson last week, Tay. The Vikings game planned around it. Shouldn't be on the field. Every week, everybody says, more and more Cooper, more and more Cooper. Well, come on, Half. Just play some Cooper. The guy is a dynamo out there. Let him be. Let him make rookie mistakes. He's going to make more plays than he does mistakes. It's enough. Who cares? Yeah, he's on the injured list again with the hip. It's been an issue all year. Play him till he can't play, Tay. The kid's got it. He's got the motor. He's the type of inside linebacker the Packers haven't had in forever. He's better than Quay. He's better than anybody they got. McDuffie's not playing well. Just give Cooper 60, 70% of the snaps week to week if he can do it. No reason they shouldn't. These are little things they have to adjust to. They have to see the mistakes and say, hey, we've got better personnel. I mean, look at Evan Williams. When he's back there, Javon Bullard. These young rookies they took, some of them are really good. We talk about this every year, in and out. Like they wait so long to give these guys snaps. It's ridiculous, right? Is it not? The Packer way, like, we're just going to bring them along slow. And then they're good. No, what do you want to waste, opportunities to take the ball away? Do you want to waste opportunities to win games early? I'm not sure what you're trying to do here. Play your guys. You drafted them. They're talented. Brian, they're your guys. Is McDuffie going to be here next year? Nope. He's gone. So what are you worried about? Just roll the young guys out. Let them be the youngest team in the NFL. That's what they already are. And let them cook. Let them make some mistakes, but that's how you learn. And I'm just sick of the crap. It's just like they got to get past that kind of stuff, Tay. More with the Rams. I mean, the Rams don't have a defensive line anymore. Obviously lost Aaron Donald. They can't get any push up front, Tay. Yes, Jordan's a bit of a statue right now. He has to play out of the shotgun a lot. We prefer to have him under center. Would be a lot more effective. But listen, in the second half of that game against the Vikings, dude cooked. Yeah, he was great. I think he had 114 passer rating in the second half. He was not good in the first, but banged some rust off, got going. This Packer team could put up a lot of points. They're number one in DVOA in explosive plays in the NFL, but one of the worst teams in the red zone, also in the NFL. So they gotta clean that up. They gotta cook. Wicks. What did Wicks have last week? 2 for 89, 2 touchdowns for 89 yards. And then you got Jay Reed, 7 for 139 and a touchdown, Tay. This guy, he's it. he's your new Devontae Adams. You want to talk about
Yeah.
Tay? It's Jay Reed. That's your new guy. He's a superstar in the making. Get the ball to him in space. Let him cook. Let him and Wicks cook. Those guys get open more than anybody else on the team. Let Romeo get a few of your possession receptions, and just go beat the hell out of Rams. Like, this is a 1-3 football team, Tay. Outside of nice 27-point team, 27-point performance they had in a comeback win against the Niners, they're 1-3. In the other 3 games today, they scored 20, 18, and 10. This is not a juggernaut. They're way too banged up. If you don't come out of Los Angeles with a win, I don't know what to think about the Packers. I know we talked about it coming out of the first take. Like, who is this team? I don't know. But certainly they show us signs that they're ready to start cooking like they were in the second half of last season. And they're ahead of the curve based on where they were this time last year. So let's just go win 3 of the next 4, get to the bye. You're going to be in good shape, and then, let the second half be what it is.
Right on, Ren. I agree. Well said. There's no reason this Packers team, should go into LA and not win this football game. If they do, then we got lots of problems to discuss next week. But this should be a good get right game for them. And we kind of know what they are. We question this in the first take. Yes, what kind of team is going to show up? What is this team? But we kind of know what they are. We saw it in the second half. They can do stuff. They can move the ball. But maybe it's that rust thing with Love. Maybe it's just like, I don't know. Maybe it's Halfley, getting into his role. I mean, he hasn't played. He hasn't been a defensive coordinator in the NFL like this. So maybe it just takes him time to get things going too. So I don't know. But again, I think going back to one of the first things you said in this episode, they're 2-2. Any kind of owner or GM would love to see that going into the year here, especially if there are unknowns with your football team, especially when your QB1 goes down. So 2-2 isn't bad, and we got a lot to look forward to. And the Packers will be a better team going forward, and they should be. Our expectations are higher, yes, but that doesn't come without reasoning. They are a good football team. They can be great, and this is where it starts. The Rams game here is a perfect place to start, get back on track. So with that being said, I think they probably put up. I think they put up 29 or whatever that was, because they were trying to win the game. They had to come back, and maybe some garbage time, throws, some splitting the zone coverage with the Vikings, but I still think they put up 27 points in this game, if not more. I don't want to go over 30 yet. I'm not comfortable with that, so I'm going to say the Packers 27, the Rams, I'm going to say 14, 2 touchdowns. That's it. How about you?
Well, before I give my score, I do like what you said about Jeff. And here's the other thing about Jeff, and that is, even in the Vikings game today, something I may have not seen in previous defensive coordinator administrations, is he adjusted. He saw things in that game, that were not working well. He adjusted to it. They played a much better second half, even given not having his number 1 cornerback, or maybe in his mind his number 2 cornerback. And that's a good thing. That he says, hey, something's not working. I got to adjust on the fly. How many years do we want Mike Pettin or Dom Capers or anybody else to just please change something? Joe Barry, please change something at halftime. And he's trying to change it as quick as he can and recognize things that are changing. So I like that you kind of mentioned that, and that's a big thing. I think Jeff does recognize that, and he tries to adjust scheme or personnel to certain situations. Maybe he gets more Evan Williams in here. That's where XYZ player comes in, and he does do that. So that's a good thing. But Packers, I go Packers 28, Rams 17. Get a nice win over the Rams in Los Angeles. Do you know the actual take on this game, Tay?
The line?
Mm-hmm.
I do not. I'm gonna say it's the Packers, though. The Packers get it probably like 4.5 to the Packers. That's what I'm.
No, that's a little bold, Vegas. It's 3.5. Some are at 3, but the Packers are getting some away cooking today.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Well, I think we're on the same page here, Ren. I think this is a game that the Packers should win. If not, we definitely got things to talk about going forward. But this should be a fun one. I mean, this should be fun to watch. It's a 3:25 game. After that, everyone can go to bed or do whatever they want, but and do some stuff Sunday morning, midday before the game starts. There's football on in the morning, by the way. Just to throw this out, there's a London game, so I think the Vikings play. But anyway, yeah, this one should be great.
Vikings Jets day, by the way.
Yeah, that's right.
Aaron Rodgers versus the Vikings.
And the Rodgers. So maybe wake up, get some coffee or whatever. And
I think that one's only on the NFL Network, though, Tay, I believe. So unless you got the network, you're not getting away. And Aaron looks kind of old.
Yeah. No comment.
Tom Brady was 101 today. I'm just got to tell you.
Yep.
101.
Well, we'll be back after the Rams game for our first takeaway, so don't miss that. And we thank you for watching. And continue your support. Head over to our website, packeruniverse.com. Send us an email, info@packeruniverse.com. Follow us on socials. We appreciate it very much. So thank you, Packer Universe. And Ren, thanks for joining me tonight.
Absolutely, Tay. And so we get to play these 1 interception and 8 sacks in the season Rams. Not so good until episode, 290, Tay?
Yep.
On the pup list.